passionate, determined, persistent. Marge Metivier was a pioneer in parent advocacy, a driving force in legislation affecting people and families with an intellectual or developmental disability.
I'm a realist. I know best what my child's needs are, and who should make that determination more than me?
But the story of this powerhouse of public advocacy is also the story of a daughter and a mother's lifelong love. Dora Lee was born the third of 4 daughters to Marge and Al Metivier. All seemed well. Dora went to kindergarten, she made her first communion, carried on the usual activities of childhood, and was said to be just a little slow. By her 20s, Dora's condition had deteriorated to the extent Marge knew she was not able to care for Dora alone. The search began for a suitable place for Dora to live, but no such place existed. What they found were horrific institutions that warehouse people under pathetic conditions from birth until an unnecessary early death. Marge convinced her state representative, Patrick Sweeney, to visit Broadview Center.
That was a pretty horrific experience for me, memorable in the sense that what I saw there was terrible. It took me 4 or 5 days to recover, and I even gave some consideration to quitting this job.
Marge became convinced that the only way to help Dora was to change the law governing treatment and services in our entire society. And so it began. Marge teamed up with other parents through the ARC and advocated for legislation to set up county boards of mental retardation. She worked to guarantee the right to education. Michael Donzella, retired superintendent of the Cuyahoga County Board of Mental Retardation, remembers the sad state of affairs when it came to meals in residential care. Full-grown adults wore bibs and were fed pureed foods. Marge was shocked, then angry, then insistent that people be taught to feed themselves with plates and spoons. Once Marge learned that parents could impact care and treatment, that's exactly what she did. Former Representative and State Senator Patrick Sweeney said nobody lobbies like the ARC. Another group would send several lobbyists. The ARC sent one, Marge.
She was more of an advocate, lobbyist / informant, teacher, scholar, determined, persistent, without being brutal.
Sweeney says Marge would show up on a Friday night on his porch with 16 of his neighbors, all with a family member with an intellectual disability.
The disabled were there, and Marge was there. You'd see them everywhere. Not in your face, you'd see them in the supermarket. You'd see them standing in line at the movies. You'd see them when you were at home and at church, and they personalized this experience. ARC just did it, and it was not pressure, was educational, and it was suddenly made legislators understand their job, and the best thing they can do, bring to a job site, is a set of ears.
Long before there were professionals to serve, treat, and care for people with intellectual disabilities, there was Marge.
We would go over there to visit. I would try to make it almost every day. I talked to her on the phone every day, if I could get through, because you would go over there and you'd get a cup of coffee and her phone would be ringing, and that would be the end of the visit, because she would just, one phone call after another of either parents, where do I go, who do I talk to. She didn't have cordless phone, so she sat in the kitchen. It was that yellow corded phone. I still have it.
When professional service providers finally did get involved, Marge was their resource.
One of my best resources for legislation was Marge. And I remember one day in particular, I remembered a piece of legislation, but I had to have the number. I said, I know where I'll find it. I picked up the phone, I called Marge. So whenever I had a need for resources on legislation, I went to Marge. I didn't go to the library or go to the legislature to find out what I needed.
I learned more about this field from her because it was from a parent's perspective than in the many, many workshops that I've attended over the last 15 years.
Dora lived in residential care, and Marge was involved in her care every single day. She made caring for Dora her reason to live, work, and love. Parents of children with special needs worry, and they ask the same question: who will care for my baby when I'm gone?
About 3 days before Marge died, I went to visit her, and I sat with the family in her hospital room, and we talked. And in the course of the conversation, she made it known that her life was short, and she was kind of weak. And we talked for a while, and then when I felt it was time to leave, as I was standing up, she grabbed my coat and said, "You take care of my baby, do you understand?" And looked me straight in the eye, and her voice was no longer weak. It was a very strong, emotional command, pretty much. And that is what I see today when I get ready and go to work.
Today, people with intellectual disabilities are included in family, school, work, and community life. But Marge Metivier would be the first to say, our work is not yet done. Happily, this generation of intellectually disabled people is the first to live to healthy old age, but the system is not set up for the later years.
If our mom were here, boy, she'd be saying, I don't know why my Dora can't sleep in the mornings just like everybody else that's retired. But she's got to get up every morning and dressed and go on the bus and go to workshop.
If Marge Metivier were alive today, be assured she'd be down at that state house banging on someone's desk, demanding rights, responsibilities, but above all else, demanding respect for lives lived with disability.